Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Biotics, I warmly welcome you all to today's Biotalk session. Biotalks is our initiative to bring biology beyond textbooks, creating a space where ideas, research, and real world science come together. It's all about sparking curiosity, simplifying complex concepts, and building a community that genuinely engages with science. And today, we are talking that curiosity to the next level with a fascinating topic: mind control in nature. Parasites that manipulative insects is all one of those areas where nature feels almost unreal, where parasites don't just survive but actually control the behavior of their hosts. We are delighted to have ASHWATI BIJU as an MSc Wildlife Science student from the Wildlife Institute of India, who will be uh, guiding us through this intriguing subject. So get ready for a session that will completely change how you look at nature and its hidden mechanisms. So let's begin.
Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll start sharing. I hope the screen is visible. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible and the screen is visible right now.
yes, it is.
Okay, so uh, thank you for the wonderful intro. Today I'm going to be talking about mind control in nature, parasites that manipulate insects. Talking a bit about myself, I'm a master's student in Wildlife Institute of India, doing my master's in wildlife science. I'm currently in my final year and I'm doing my dissertation on ants. So let's begin. Mind control is a topic that, if you think about it, comes right out of science fiction, right? You would not expect it in real life, but it is very real, and there are examples right around you. What if your behavior wasn't your own? Can anybody recognize where the background image is from? Anyone? Please, you can on your mic and say that. This is going to be an interactive session.
I think it's from a movie called Annihilation.
Mm, close, but not. It's a show. It's a show called Last of Us. I can understand why you guessed Annihilation. So, Last of Us is based off of zombie funguses. So, we'll talk more about that. Imagine an ant moves along its usual trail in the forest searching for food. And somewhere along the way, a tiny fungal spore lands on its body. The ant continues at normal at first, but gradually things change. It leaves its trail, wandering alone, almost like a zombie, no longer fully in control. Then it begins to climb, higher than it usually would, until it reaches the underside of a leaf. There, it grips tightly with its jaws, and then it dies. From its body, the fungus grows, sending out a stalk that releases spores onto the forest floor below, where other ants will pass. This real life phenomenon is what inspired the zombie infection in the show that I just talked about, Last of Us, and also the game Last of Us. The ant's final act wasn't random. It happened in exactly the right place for the fungus to continue its life. So, why did I choose this topic? It challenges our basic assumption that behavior is self-controlled, that it is controlled by the organism. Reveals how brains and behavior can be altered by biology, and shows the hidden influence parasites have on ecosystems and evolution. It also helps us understand broader questions about control, survival, and adaptation. So let's go into what is a parasite-induced behavioral manipulation? So instead of mind control, you can use the term behavioral manipulation. Parasites change the host behavior to benefit themselves. So you guys know what parasites are, right? Parasites are, for the non-biology people, parasites are organisms that um, ex- um, exist or like live along with organisms and are negatively impacting them. So normally we take the resources from the host organisms but don't do any behavioral change. But the manipulative parasites, what they do is they alter the behaviors to aid in their transmission. Transmission is for them to spread. So I would like to introduce a term called extended phenotype here. So as I mentioned, I picked this topic because it is interesting how behavior is not self-controlled and can be controlled from a gene that is outside of our body or a trait that's outside of our body. Parasite genes influence the host ka behavior. And that and that process phenomenon is called extended phenotype. Behavior becomes an expression of parasitic genes. I hope the definition of extended phenotype is clear to you. So phenotype basically means what is expressed. So when your genes, all of them will have specific kind of traits or specific kind of characteristics. For example, one of my gene would be coding my hair to be black or my eye to be a certain shape. The same way, the eye shape is called the phenotype, the expression of the gene. So extended phenotype is it's coming from outside and it's affecting the phenotype of the host organism. Now, why manipulate the host? Alter behavior. They alter the behavior so the parasites can spread to new hosts. Sometimes some hosts need multiple hosts. Sometimes some parasites need multiple hosts to reproduce. So manipulation helps the host get eaten by the next host or reach the right environment. Then it also helps them improve survival and reproduction. Parasites that manipulate hosts more effectively leave more offspring. Common sense, you can think about that, right? If they get into more hosts and reproduce more, they will leave more offspring, which over time natural selection favors them better and gives them more precise control. Now, mechanisms of mind control. What all mechanisms do these parasites use? They do chemical manipulation where neurochemicals alter brain signals and make the organism act a certain way. Then there are physical effects where the parasites do tissue damage and growth in the host. And then, but they don't harm the insect or the organism so much so that the insect will die. There has to be a very thin line between killing the organism and keeping it alive for its own use. And then, as a part of all of this, behavioral rewiring happens where the behavior of the organism changes and it overrides the normal actions that they would usually do and creates new behaviors that are uncharacteristic to the organism. So now let's start getting into some case studies. This is the most famous one, zombie ant fungus. Just a minute. Yeah. So what happens with zombie ant funguses is the story that I narrated in the start. Some parasitic fungi and worms manipulate their host navigational system in the most strange ways. Such manipulation ends with the suicide of the host. For example, an ant falling victim to parasitic fungus of the genus Cordyceps is manipulated to produce a behavior that facilitates the dispersal of the fungus, thereby optimizing the parasite's chances of reproduction. As you can see in this image, the spores fall on the ant, it gets infected, and then its activity, its daily activity, which is usually would be like, you can see here, a healthy forager. Its activity hours would be less in the like noon time because it's too hot, and then active in the mornings and evenings. But then its rhythm gets disrupted. It starts getting active throughout the day. It doesn't communicate with the others, starts staggering around, all around very weird behavior, and then becomes very hyperactive and then starts this process called summiting. Summiting, as the name suggests, it starts summiting a tree or a plant or whatever is tall enough in the area, and then gets to the tallest point, bites down on the plant, which is called a death bite because they eventually die there. It's so hard, it gets lodged in there. They won't be able to lodge it back, like get it back. And then they bite in there, and then basically what happens, you can see the photos here. The fungus bursts out of the cuticle of the, that is, cuticle is basically the skin of the insect, and it bursts out and releases the spores, and this cycle continues again. So while it's inside, it needs to feed, right? So it will feed on everything else except the vital organs, so that it can keep the ant alive. And at the last moment, it will consume the brain as well. That's when the ant really dies. So until then, it's basically alive but not. So basically, that's why it's called zombie ant. So this is a very interesting phenomenon, and this is not something that just happens somewhere in the Western countries or something. It happens right here in our Western Ghats as well. These two photos are taken from iNaturalist, and these have been recorded in Karnataka in Gudikeri, that is close to Agumbe. And this photo I have taken, which is not an ant but a dipteran. Dipteran is any insect with two wings, which is close to like flies and things. You can see that these protrusions that are coming out here are all funguses, fungi. When the next case study is the zombie ant fluke. So we discussed fungus. Now there is a liver fluke called fasciola, or there are multiple river flukes. In this case, what happens is the ant, so there would be a snail which would have consumed some or the other kind of dung or scat from an animal, like a cow or something. And these eggs are ingested by the snail, which is an intermediate host. From the slime of the snail, which the ants will feed upon, ants feed on the slime and try to take it back to their nest, where it spreads into them. And inside the slime, there are eggs of these liver flukes. And these liver flukes make the ant summit again, summit on top of a grass or a plant or a flower, so that they would be behaving completely normally all the other time. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So they would make the fluke would control the ant so that it would make the ant climb up to a plant that a cow or a herd or whatever cattle or whatever animal is around would eat. And then it would go into the gut of the cow, for example, and then it completes its life cycle there, lays its eggs in its dung, comes out, and the cycle continues again. So you can see the summiting is a very common behavioral manipulation that happens across different cases of like EPH, that is funguses or flukes, etc. Now, another example would be parasitoid wasps. So they work a little bit differently. For example, here you can see the parasitoid wasps lay eggs in diversity of host species and developmental stages. Sometimes they lay eggs on caterpillars, sometimes they lay eggs on eggs and pupas and different stages, sometimes in the adults as well. In this image, you can see that the parasitoid wasp has gone and laid eggs inside a caterpillar, and then when it lives inside of it, the pupas, the larvae comes out, feeds inside the caterpillar body, eats everything except the vital organs that is necessary for it to survive, and then it comes out, and through while coming out, it will plug all of its holes so that it can't eat anymore, and then it will use that body to cocoon, form a cocoon, and then it will become an adult. So this is a very common cycle that you see in parasitoid wasps. They also inject a venom in their host so that the host becomes sluggish and doesn't work properly. Now, this is another case of parasitoid wasps injecting venom into a spider, and then the parasitoid wasp will drag the spider back to its nest, its hive, and then it will lay eggs on the abdomen where the larvae will feed on everything on the spider, and then when it's the right time, they will come out and cocoon. So this is how parasitoid wasps work. Now, another example is horsehair worm. This is very interesting, where these worms, basically nematomorpha, come in the same family as flatworms, etc., that you see in your own body. So, horsehair worms are called so because they resemble horsehair. And in this image, you can see that the worm that has come out of the organism, the grasshopper or the cricket here, orthopter in here, is much, much larger than the organism. So what happens is, this organism lives in the, horsehair worm lives in the water. It reproduces in the water. After reproducing, the eggs get eaten by intermediate hosts such as invertebrate, aquatic invertebrates, insects that live in water. And then lands, some of the other form of land insects such as a grasshopper or a mantis or something will eat those insects, and then it will grow inside the body of the grasshopper, for example in this case grasshopper, and the larva develops into an adult and compels the host to seek out water, which is not something a land like land living organism would do. And then it basically seeks out water, and the adult worm leaves the host and enters the water. So what happens to the host is basically the host drowns and the worm exits the body and then completes its life cycle. So lots of people have tried to see why this could be happening, how they are controlling them. Do they create dehydration? Is that why they are going near the water? From the past studies that have been conducted, it's not dehydration, but more so the proteins that the host organism have, they shift out some of the proteins. The horsehair worm shifts out some of the proteins and compels the organisms to behave differently. Another interesting example would be baculovirus and insects. Baculovirus, what it does, it usually affects caterpillars. It affects a lot of insects, but usually caterpillars. And then it goes inside the caterpillars. How does it go inside? It's usually seen on leaves and foliage. And when the caterpillar feeds on it, it gets infected. Again, summiting is seen here. It makes the caterpillar summit to a plant or a tree, and then basically makes it do the death bite and then attract more attention, dies there. And after dying, what happens interestingly here is the infected insects liquefy after death. So all the occlusion bodies, that is the reproduction phase of the parasite, will spread on the foliage below it. So why does it make it climb up? So that when it dies and liquefies, all of the parts can drip onto the leaves and plants below, so that other caterpillars will eat it and continue this life cycle. Another one is zombie flies. As the name suggests, it's again a fungus. When host resources are depleted, the fungus forms a cell wall and proceeds through one or two routes. So there are two routes where how this makes the flies behave. So in this image, you can see it's pretty dormant, and then continued transmission happens. Behavioral manipulation, again summiting happens. Summiting disease in zombie flies, it's called summiting disease. And this fungus is called Entomophthora, and they make them arrange themselves in such a way so that the spore for dispersal will be most optimum. Like it will go in the maximum direction. So the wings will be arranged in such a certain way. So they can make them behave in two ways. One is go and do the summiting position so that continued transmission would occur. Otherwise, another one is return to the soil, and then later, if the environment is not like in a good condition for them to spread, it will make them go back, rest. Otherwise, it will make it summit again and then do the same process. This is an example of parasites affecting mammals. In this case, this is affecting rats, rodents. So, Toxoplasma gondii uh, is a it infects makes lower anxiety in rats. So how does that happen? It affects the neurotransmitters in the brain, and then makes the rat anxiety level go low, so that the things that it's usually scared of, it won't be scared of anymore, and then it will be attracted to uh, cats and cat urine, in some cases turning the innate aversion that it has into an imprudent attraction, which basically the cat will eat it, and then from the cat feces, it will spread to other organisms, and then from other organisms, sometimes if you have pets as cats as pets, it would spread to humans as well. So this is a disease that spreads to humans as well. It's a zoonotic disease, and it's pregnant women and immunocompromised individuals are most at risk. Sometimes it leads to some studies suggest that it leads to schizophrenia as well, or schizophrenia similar symptoms. Now this one I saved the best for the last. This is a disco zombie snail. The name suggests that it does some kind of dance maneuver, right? So what happens is, there is this unique and bizarre movement that the snail tentacles will make, where one or the other will keep moving. One tentacle and the other would keep moving. Like this tentacle would go up, this tentacle would go up, attracting attention towards it. So what's happening here is, this parasite has gone inside the body of the organism and has come out through the tentacles of it, and it is making its tentacles go around like this, so that it can the birds will think it is a caterpillar or a worm or something, and it will come and eat the snail. And what happens, the rest of the life cycle of the larvae will continue in the gut of the bird, and then again from the feces of the bird the eggs will come out, larvae will seek out the snails again, and this continues. Such an interesting name, right? Not just zombie snails, disco zombie snails. Now, are these really mind control? Mind control is a simplification. Not actually. Thinking or intent is not going on there. Changes happens via biochemical pathways. Like I mentioned, it alters their brain chemistry or affects their hormones or signaling molecules, affects enzymes. The host nervous system is modified, not replaced. In certain cases of mind control in science fiction movies and books, you might see that the virus or whatever it is will overtake the mind of the organism, or the zombie movies or etc. What happens is the virus takes over the brain of the organism. What happens here is the host nervous system is modified, not replaced. Some behaviors are highly specific. Example, climbing to a certain height, like summiting. You guys saw how common summiting was across these different taxas. But this precision comes from evolved mechanism, not intelligence. So it's not actually true control, it's biology creating the illusion of control. Now, ecological and evolutionary implications. What evolutionary and ecological implications do such behavior altering parasites have? Food web effects. Infected hosts become easier prey for other organisms, and the death location changes nutrient flow. So they are usually, for example, the ant would die on the floor, but it is going and dying on somewhere else, and then because of the so that creates a change in the nutrient flow. And then population control, increase in host mortality and reduces reproduction and regulates population. Also, host parasite co-evolution happens as well. So hosts will evolve defenses to go against such parasites, and the parasites will evolve better control, which this game will keep continuing. Hosts will evolve, parasites will evolve. This will be a evolutionary arms race that will keep happening. And then behavioral ecology wise, behavior not always controlled by the host, which is something that we understand by such diseases, and this is an example of extended phenotype. Now, you can see certain patterns repeating across such systems. Altered movement in Ophiocordyceps affected, that is the zombie ant affected one. You can see that the movement, they were staggering, their behavior changed, their activity times changed, they were hyperactive, etc. Then change in habitat preference. The kind of habitat the snails would usually hang out in, that's not where the snails are usually seen in when they are affected by the larvae of this. And then modify feeding or reproduction. In this example, this is a parasitoid wasp, Ampulex compressa, affecting a cockroach. The cockroach stops normal activity and becomes a living host for the larvae that the parasitoid wasp has laid eggs inside. Now, how is it relevant to humans in science? Neuroscience aspect. In the neuroscience aspect, it links brain chemistry to behavior, which is very interesting. And also that we have found out that behavior can be externally influenced, not just by the organism. Behavior changes can aid disease spread, which is also an interesting study matter in the future. And some of the applications of affecting parasites is they can be used for biocontrol of pests. So there are a couple of studies that are going on where people are trying to use these so that they can biologically control pests and keep their population down and their reproduction down. And these are also good insights for medicine and brain research. Now, what are all the current researches and research gaps? Exact brain circuits involved are unclear. Which parasite genes control behavior is not fully known. And conditions like humidity and habitat influence how does it affect the outcome or influence the outcome of the such parasites is still pretty much unknown. Why do parasites target certain species but not the others? It is probably related to coevolution, that both of them closely underwent evolution together. So that is probably why, but that is also still not scientifically proven yet. How parasites control when behavior changes occur? How do parasites control when does the behavior change occur? And when to turn it off? How does the on and off system work? Specific chemicals or enzymes causing behavior change still being identified. So what all chemicals or what all enzymes are used for these behavioral change, it is still being identified. Now, these are my references and I will take questions now. It was a really interesting topic, right? You can see how zombies do exist in real life, and we are not so far away from them. They are happening right around us. There are a lot of examples from Western Ghats itself, from Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu itself. I wanted to work on something similar for my dissertation, but the time period of our dissertation was not optimum for it. We need something optimum for fungus, that is right after monsoon or monsoon period. But our dissertation period was, project period was in the winters. So I had to kind of drop that idea. But yeah, any questions?
Hi, Ashwati. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are.
I'm from Kerala, and
Okay.
I was the person who worked on the bacilla virus, which you mentioned,
Oh, nice.
called as Hiblia the cheek
Yeah.
defoliator. So
Hmm.
that virus, when they infect, the larva goes up the tree and it dies there. It
Yeah.
behaves in an inverted V position. And earlier, before people could identify it as a virus induced behavioral change, people used to call it as tree top disease.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cancrate,
Excellent.
that was the given for that, because people doesn't know what is happening. They found all the larvae climbing up the tree and dying there. So they called it as a tree top disease,
Okay.
as a disease for the larva. The presentation was interesting, enjoyable. The only thing which I have a comment is that I do feel that we human beings are being cultivated by microbes. They are they are making us big so that they can have much more food later on.
Could be.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation.
And thank you so much for your wonderful inputs.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
My name is Ravi. I am from Palakkad, Kerala.
Okay.
One question is like, does the host, most of the hosts which get affected by this spores or parasite, what do you say? Don't they
Hmm.
have the strong immune system? Doesn't it fight against the spores or the virus which comes into them?
So most of the time, that's what would happen. That's why we don't see that all of the ants or all of the most of them get affected. But that's what the evolutionary arms race is about. The defense system would get better, so the pathogen will increase its uh, like virulence, which is basically how much it can affect the organism. So this keeps on going on. At some point, it will become. It's basically what happens with us and antibiotics. Antibiotic resistance happens, right? After a certain point, we can the antibiotics don't work on us anymore. So then we have to make something that is even more stronger. So it's the same thing with the organisms. Like we get diseases, even though we have immune system, some of us get diseases, and then after some time, the next time we won't get that fever. So it's the same thing. But in this case, it's so deathly that there is no next time for that organism.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Hi, Avasti. Uh, Hello. Uh,
Hello.
how will do molecular profiling of this microbiota, got microbiota of ruminant species, especially primates?
How will it what?
Molecular profiling of parasitic got microbiota of primates or other ruminant species.
I guess from the scat, from the like basically feces.
No, no. How will molecular profiling from their scat dung?
I'm not really sure about that because I've never done the molecular profiling. Uh, so yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I think it would differ for each organism because some are fungi, some are nematophores, and different organisms would have different methods. But since I've not done it really, I can't answer specifically for each of them.
Okay, but my question is specifically targeted to the primate species from their fecal matter. How will this microbiota, how will do this molecular profiling by using molecular techniques? How will identify the
Hmm.
parasite species, endoparasites?
Okay. Um, I'm still unclear about this. Can we connect over this later? I can drop my email in the chat box and then we can chat about that later.
Okay, sure, sure, definitely.
Hi, Didi.
Any more
I had
questions? Yeah.
I had a question.
Hmm.
I think there's a species of caterpillars which actually like mimics or secretes a type of scent um,
Hmm.
which actually mimics the scent of the ants. And so what happens actually is the ants actually recognizes the caterpillar as one of its own. They carry
Hmm.
the caterpillar to the nest, and the caterpillar
Yeah.
can feed on the premature eggs or larvae. So can we like
Yeah.
classify this behavior in the case of parasitism?
Yeah. Parasitism would be basically what? Using the resources uh, basically illegally or scamming the host organism. So I guess in this case we can classify it as a parasite too because it is using the host resources, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Avasti, how this parasite study will implement in wildlife management?
Like I said, we can use them for bio control agents. So there are a lot of pests, like insects are mostly known as pests, even though they have a lot of like good utilization capabilities as well. But we can use them, use these parasites as bio control agents for such pests.
Okay, okay. Thank you. What about other
Okay.
species like vertebrate species?
Vertebrates, it's harder to like I said, in rats and such cases it happens, but higher mammals it's not been recorded as of yet, probably due to the complex immune system that the parasites have not been able to hack yet. So it's not happened yet. It could happen. So that's what the series Last of Us is about, where Ophiocordyceps, the zombie ant fungus, spreads from the ants to the humans. So it's fiction, but I personally believe that it could happen at some point in the future. And we have a comment in the comment box. Any of these parasites use fruits and honey. Nectar has host. Uh, Not the ones that I've mentioned as examples. Fruits and honey, most of them, the foliage one, the last one that I was talking about, the treetop disease that Sajeev sir talked about, that one is seen on foliage, on leaves. But I'm not sure if they're seen on fruits or anything. I've not come across any while I was doing review of the literature and stuff. And can we filter out these parasites from water? Uh, like I said, these parasites are of different groups, so you will have to have a very extensive filtering process. But I don't think it will affect humans so soon. But fungal spores are very hard to filter out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So,
Uh,
any more questions or comments?
uh, uh, Actually, I just have a feeling that these are not exceptions, but this is the norm. Like, for
Hmm.
example, biology is now realizing that there is no organism or there
Hmm.
is no body of any organism which is just one species. Every
Hmm.
body is a complex of a large number of organisms. If you
Hmm.
add the microbiota, like for
Yeah.
human body, equal to the number of cells in a human body, we have microbes in our gut.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's almost the same number. So they influence us in many, many, many different ways. Like, for example,
Hmm.
the example which you told about antibiotic. You take an
Hmm.
antibiotic tablet, what is going to happen is that it is just like an atom bomb for the
Hmm.
for the microbiome. It will be
Yeah.
absolutely shattered. And it
Hmm.
takes many days for the human being to come back to normal.
Yeah.
Uh, and unless the microbiota behaves themselves, the human being also will not be behaving properly.
Properly. Yeah.
So
And
I
I guess
pos
in that, yeah, in different molecular ways, it does affect us as well.
yes, the reason why I am feeling hungry is not just because me, but then because of my microbiota is feeling hunger.
Mm.
So that goes to my brain. They give signals to my brain so that I feed them also when I feed myself.
Yeah,
So in
true.
biology, I am thinking that maybe in a couple of years,
Mm.
whatever you told today
Mm.
is going to be the norm. And people will be thinking about the whole biological system from a diverse point of view,
Yeah.
as if there is no single species. It is just
Mm.
species complexes which are
Complex.
moving around.
Yeah. So in this case, most of them are species complexes. They're described as species complexes. And we are not, because for some reason we think we are much superior.
Yeah.
So at some, yeah, at some point we will also start thinking in that point. And I feel like that would be the onset of much better science.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Umesh has asked any examples from aquatic systems. Like I mentioned, the horsehair worm, no? The horsehair worm is seen in water bodies. And then it lays eggs and then it goes into aquatic macroinvertebrates, aquatic insects, which the land insects will eat, and then it will happen again. And it sometimes goes to fishes as well, which people eat, and then it enters human body. So it doesn't create a, or we don't know if it creates any kind of alteration. But yeah, so a lot of we don't know how many parasites are around us to begin with. That's why we think that it's not affecting us. But you have to start looking around yourself. Like, just for example, I'm from Kerala, so I will pull out Kerala as an example. South India has so many of these cicadas and ants and lot of other insects that get infected by Ophiocordyceps. We only talk about Ophiocordyceps in the Northeast because they are used as products there, uh, and they are used as aphrodisiacs and different purposes. So that's why, and they're sold as well. They're very expensive. These worms that get affected by Ophiocordyceps are sold, cultivated, and so there is that kind of human resource, like some kind of use that we can tap into here as well, if we are thinking in that point of view. But for all of that, we have to first identify what all are around us. And that's why we need a lot of taxonomy and ecological work to be done. And that's another ulterior motive of my talk. I want to inspire more people to get into zombies, real life zombies. Any more comments? Or I guess sure, I guess we can conclude now. Thank you so much for all of your insights. It was a wonderful session for me as well. Uh, Having so much back and forth and having interested people in the chats is very nice. Thank you, Saptak.
So, as we come to the end of today's BioTalk session, we extend our sincere thanks to ASHWATI BIJU for delivering such a fascinating and insightful talk on mind control in nature, parasites that manipulate insects. Today's session gave us a deeper look into the hidden strategies of nature, where parasites don't just survive but influence and control their hosts in incredible ways. Today, it truly reminds us how complex and surprising biological interactions can be. Biotalks, as part of our student knowledge sharing series, aims to create a space where students can explore, share, and lead discussions in life sciences. And sessions like this are exactly what make that vision come alive. Registrations are still open, so if you are passionate about any topic in biology, we encourage you to step forward and be a speaker in our upcoming sessions. Thank you to everyone who joined us and actively participated. With that, we officially conclude today's session. See you in the next Biotics Biotalks. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.
Thank you, everyone.